Hello, General Biology, and welcome to the third in our screencast series of Section 4.4, Chapter 4. And I kind of left you hanging with a story I was going to share with you, and I'm going to show you these pictures in class. So we were staying at the Sarah Peak Rainforest Lodge. You're welcome to Google it if you'd like. And they have actually thatch roofs. Where thatch roof, kind of like huts that you stayed in. It was really cool and really nice, but they really didn't have doors, so to speak. So they had screens in place where you kind of pulled a shutter in front of the doors to close the doors off at night that still allowed the air to come through because they didn't have air conditioning. And there were gaps underneath the door, just like we have gaps, that didn't seal the doorway off from any little critters being able to come in and visit you during the course of the night. But around 2-3 o'clock in the morning, we heard this howling noise, and it just woke us up from a dead sleep. We were sitting up, and it sounded like it was right outside of our doorway, and it was the howler monkeys. And howler monkeys are a type of monkey that lives within the treetops of the tropical rainforest. They don't come down. They go from branch to branch to branch, and if you threaten them, they will literally throw their feces at you. That's their defensive move. Well, they must have been outside in the trees right above where we were staying, and 2-3 o'clock in the morning, they start to just make this howling, grunting noise, and it sounded like it was going to come through our screen door. We stayed there 2 nights. The second night we were a little bit more comfortable because we knew that they didn't come down. But it was still just kind of a chilling experience to hear this in the middle of the night. We also got to see sloths. Sloths move very, very slowly through the treetops. So they're another organism that would live up there, as well as different kinds of birds. And these are things that you're going to see in the rainforest. Okay, the next biome that we want to talk about, and it has some similarities to the tropical rainforest, it's called the tropical dry forest. And it's tropical dry forest because we have, in this situation, we have rainy seasons. So when we take a look at our climate graph here, we can see that it's dry from January to June, and then the rainy season starts to pick up around July. So half of the year very low rain, the other half of the year it gets quite a bit of rain, and you can see that the temperatures are not as level, as stable. It can get really hot. We're talking like almost 90 degrees in April and May, and then the temperature will go down and stay within the 80s. So this is the tropical dry forest. We're going to see that the abiotic factors of the tropical dry forest are warm year-round. They do have the alternating wet and dry seasons. There's very rich soils, but they are subject to erosion during that rainy season. The types of biotic factors that we're going to have is that these organisms are able to survive for dry seasons. They either do that by migrating to wetter places, or they slow down their body functions. They also do have deciduous trees because in order to conserve water, the trees will lose their leaves like they do here with us, and that's called deciduous because they have that seasonal loss of leaves. They'll also see that some of the plants have extra thick waxy layers on their leaves. That's going to help reduce the water loss, and they're going to be able to store water in their tissues. Some of the biotic factors too is that the animals actually can reduce their need for water by entering inactivity, as I said, and that's called estivation, where they just kind of slow down what they do. It's kind of similar to hibernation, but because it takes place during the dry season and not the winter like we have animals hibernating here, like bears would hibernate for the winter, they just kind of slow themselves down during that dry season. Other animals, like birds and primates, they'll move to other areas where the water is available during the dry season. So it's a migration that they go through. Whenever I think of the tropical dry forest, I think of Lion King as an example of the dry forest and the savanna. It kind of covers a couple of the areas in that movie. All right, the next one is the tropical grassland, savanna, and shrubland. And we're going to see this, as you can see, Mombasa, Kenya would be this area. The biome receives more seasonal rainfall than deserts do, but it receives less than the tropical dry forests. It's very grassy. Again, we can think of, when I think of Lion King, when Mufasa's sitting on top of Pride Rock and he's looking out at the grassy area, and there's spotted trees that are isolated within those, or small groves of trees. That's going to be your tropical grassland, savanna, and shrubland. You can see, as far as the temperatures go, it's a little bit more even, and we're seeing that they have more rainfall in April and May, so like 2 months of the year, and then it's a little bit more steady than the tropical dry forest would be as far as rain, but still the precipitation is low. Oops. There's very compact soils in this area. One of the reasons is that because of the types of plants, the grasses, there's frequent fires that happen, and that might sound like a horrible thing, but as we mentioned before, fires can be necessary for the germination of some plants, so it's a part of that ecosystem. Also, the action of large animals can prevent some of the areas from turning into a dry forest because they wallow in the ground and they create these pits where water can collect and stay. The abiotic factors is it's warm. We've got seasonal rainfall, that compact soil, and frequent fires, and those fires are set by lightning. The biotic factors, the plants have special adaptations so that they don't lose water, and that's waxy leaf coverings. And they do too have seasonal leaf loss so that it helps to maintain that moisture, prevent transpiration from happening. The biotic factors, there's lots of grasses, and these grasses have silica content, and that means that they're going to be less appetizing to any grazing animals or herbivores. Unlike most plants, grasses will grow from their bases, not their tips. What we're going to see here, since they grow from their bases, that way if they are grazed on, they're going to continue to grow. Just kind of like our grasses, because we can mow our grass and it'll grow back. So that's an adaptation that the grasses have. Many of the animals are going to migrate during the dry season. As I said, you're going to have your giraffe and your zebra. You're going to have gazelles that are going to be in that area. The smaller animals may burrow, and they may remain dormant. Remember estivation during that dry season. So animals like the meerkat would burrow under the ground. All right, the desert is another biome that we're going to talk about, and we actually have a desert here in the United States in the Arizona. It is, I forget the name of the desert. It's not the Yuma. There's another one, Sonoran Desert. There are deserts, as we know, in Africa, and that the upper part of Africa where Saudi Arabia is. Deserts have less than 25 centimeters of precipitation per year, so that would be less than 250 millimeters of rainfall. So you can see it's very, very dry all year long, with May, June not having much rain at all. The temperatures are going to vary a little bit. They can be like 40 or 50 degrees, and they can go up to 90 degrees, and they don't get too much colder than 40 or 50 degrees. Their temperature changes are extreme. They can be really hot during the day and then really cold at nighttime. The abiotic factors, as we already mentioned, is the low precipitation, variable temperatures. Their soils, however, are very rich in minerals, but poor in organic matter. They aren't going to have trees that lose leaves. You're going to see cactus and brush in this area. So the plants, as I said, are cacti that are able to store water in their tissues so that they can minimize the leaf surface and not have that water loss. They also don't have deep root systems either, because they don't need the roots to get water, because there's not water in the soil, and the soil tends to be very rocky and sandy. The cactus spines are actually modified leaves that they have, and it also protects them against predators, or animals that not necessarily predators, but animals that would eat them. We have a special type of photosynthesis that goes on in the plants, and it requires the leaf pores to open, and those leaf pores will only open at nighttime, so that again it helps save the water, and it enables the plants to conserve the moisture on the hot, dry days. The biotic factors in animal life, we're going to get snakes, we're going to have lizards, we will have a lot of nocturnal animals, special types of mice and rodents that live in that area, jackrabbits, okay? They will sleep during the day so that they conserve their water, and they will get their water from the food that they eat. So they're very active at nighttime to also help conserve that water. We have rabbits that have large elongated ears that help to keep the body cool. They also have blood vessels that are close to the surface, and that helps to regulate their body temperature, so that at nighttime when it's really cool, they're not going to freeze. I'm going to end the screencast here, and we'll start talking about the temperate grassland in the next screencast.